Hey, this is Cameron and welcome to the Reaction Corner. So this is a video that kind of popped off a while ago, I guess, 8 months ago. Alright. I'm pretty sure a kid posted this. He does have like 33,000 subscribers, so I am punching up with this one, which like I'm always punching up. When am I ever punching down? But it's just an enticing video. How to teach yourself guitar in 2024. I feel like I could maybe have some critiques on anything that's going to be said in here. Let's take a look at the thesis. Are you part of the 90% random statistic, of course, of aspiring guitarists who give up within their first year? Is that a real study? Do 90% of guitarists give up? Honestly, that sounds like about right. This guy has a method, too. Master fingerstyle guitar. I play fingerstyle guitar, I think. That's what classical is, right? And play like a pro in only 90 days using the OR method. I wonder if he wrote this description or if it was AI. Don't throw in the towel just yet. In this video, I share my journey from novice to seasoned player over 7 years. 7 years to become a seasoned player, huh? Alright, that's not that long. That's pretty quick journey. Entirely self-taught using free online resources. Oh god, don't be mean. Oh, I know I'm gonna be mean. So it's been 7 years and you're self-taught and you think you're a pro now, huh? Alright, we'll see. Discover the top 5 tips I wish I knew as a beginner. Tips, old dude, honestly in my eyes, you're still like in the beginner phase. The first 10 years is like, that's beginner still. Becoming a pro in 7 years is like ridiculous to me. Like doesn't even compute. Learn the importance of good technique and why. Oh dude, I can't wait to criticize your technique. I'm just like ravenous looking at this. Just like, I'm such a douchebag. Learn the importance of good technique and why just playing something anything can catapult your progress. Plus unlock the secrets to overcoming the dreaded hump phase. That's a really funny word to choose for that. Usually I hear the intermediate rut phase with smart scheduling goals. Perhaps the most crucial advice, make it fun. Prioritize enjoyment in your practice and watch your skills soar. Stick around until the end for a special insight. Alright, well, let's see what we got. It has 1.8 million views, so, you know, we're allowed to say anything we want about it. Who cares?
90% of people trying to learn guitar quit in the first year.
Is there a citation on this study that he keeps mentioning? 90% of guitarists quit in just the first year. I'd like to hear more about that, but I digress.
If you're trying to teach yourself, your chances of coming out of the winning side of that statistic after a whole year are even worse.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that makes sense, especially if you're self-taught, because where do you even start? I mean, guitar is just a skill like anything else. Like, I wanted to start learning Spanish this month, and I got, like, Duolingo, and I did one beginner course. And I literally haven't done it in like 2 weeks now. So like I feel like most people might treat guitar like that, just because it is another skill. Oh my god, I didn't even notice, but this guy is earthy. I mean, look at him. Dreamcatcher, dreadlocks. I wonder what kind of music he plays. Reggae, perhaps?
Don't give up hope, because I've spent the last 7 years going from this.
Dude, he just held up a 6. What?
Spent the last 7 years.
Okay, the thumb. I didn't see the thumb. Okay. I'm just looking for anything, man. I'm sorry.
Going from this.
Shut up, kid in the background.
To this.
Dude, honestly, like, whatever we're gonna hear next, that wasn't too bad. Like, his technique doesn't look that bad. Can I hear that again? Like, he has rhythm and stuff. That's like, that was a pretty solid hammer-on I just heard there. Alright, you're gonna get better than that?
To this.
Oh. Oh yeah, dude. Playing like a pro in that one, huh? Yeah. Don't be mean. I can't describe to you how much I hate fingerstyle guitar. Like the Pirates of the Caribbean fingerstyle stuff. It just sounds so lame to me. I really hate the tappy in guitars too. I'm not a huge fan of that. Nobody's ever actually playing anything cool when they're like tapping their guitar. They're always playing some dumb pop song. And I mean, the reason why is you can't play anything cool, like an actual classical piece, and add tapping and make it sound appropriate. So it has to just be dumb pop songs.
Nothing but completely free online resources as a self-taught guitarist.
Yeah, no, that's completely believable, going from the first thing that we saw there, and then 7 years later using free online resources, teaching yourself, going from that to playing Pirates of the Caribbean fingerstyle. It only took 7 years. 7 years is how long it takes to become a doctor. But no, you learned how to play Pirates of the Caribbean. I feel like it's not really that impressive. Now, if you went from the first one to like playing the chaconne, that'd be like a different story. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't want to be like too mean here.
In this video, I've put together the top 5 tips I wish I knew as a beginner guitarist to help you go from knowing nothing to becoming a successful self-taught guitarist, winning the 90% statistic, and learning it in half the time it took me if you apply these tips.
So you can learn Pirates of the Caribbean in 3.5 years? I feel like I could have learned that in like 6 months, honestly. Let's see what tips he has though, because maybe there's some good nuggets in there. I'm going to try to be like not judgmental. I've been very judgy this whole time. I'm sorry. I'm technically punching up here though, because YouTube analytics are all that matters. That's all a person is.
Tip number 1. YouTube and Songster is all you need.
Oh, yeah. It all depends on the kind of music you want to learn. Because if you want to learn how to play Pirates of the Caribbean, and if you want to take an unreasonably long amount of time to learn how to do it, you can just use YouTube and Songster. Or what you can do is go on YouTube and find a classical teacher like me, or like anybody else. I don't know who. You can go to like Beatrix Guitar. I know Brandon Acker has like a teaching service. You can also go with your boy here. If we're talking about giving yourself the best chances too, like you could learn everything you need to become a doctor or a surgeon without going to school. Like you're obviously not gonna be able to practice anywhere, but you could technically learn everything that you need because the books are available. Like they're all there, and I'm sure that there's lectures online. Like you can look up a curriculum, get all the textbooks and study them in the same amount of time. But if you want to give yourself the best chance, which is what he's like promoting here, somebody to keep you accountable is extremely helpful, which is like part of what you pay for in a teacher. Like you have somebody that you go to every week to present your work to, and they'll give you feedback on it. And that's how you can sort of like break up like the time that you spend practicing. Without that, you just sort of go at a pace that's like nebulous. You don't even know if it's a fast or a slow pace or not. You could be moving on when you're like completely not ready, but you just have no idea because you don't know anything. Having somebody to actually build a curriculum for you is going to be uber helpful for breaking through the 90% barrier or whatever.
Musician, simply guitar, unnecessary.
Yeah, I agree with that. We're in agreement there.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't use them, and if they work for you, then that's fantastic. But I find YouTube and Songster, which are both completely free, by the way, I'll explain what Songster is in just 1 second, to be a very comprehensive and synergetic teaching duo that taught me everything I know. Now, pay close attention, because I'm about to break down my exact process for learning new things on the guitar with these 2 applications I just met.
Oh, heck yeah.
First, I searched up a YouTube video of the song I want to learn. Note that this can also be a riff, scale, chord shape, whatever it may be. I'm just using song for simplicity. Crucial first step that will accelerate your learning drastically, because by listening to the song first and internalizing the melody and the notes, now your brain can associate certain notes with fingerings and frets on the guitar.
You know, learning it by rote. Alright? I know, he's not playing classical, it doesn't matter. But yeah, it is just kind of funny. I'm personally a fan of never listening to the music that I'm working on. Like, I started working on the chaconne recently. I'm not listening to that thing at all. I'm going to learn what it sounds like as I go through it. And I just find that very fulfilling.
It takes most guitarists decades to master. Okay, step 2. Search up a YouTube tutorial video of the song. Once again, it can mean scale, riff, chord, whatever you want to learn. And for most popular songs, there should be. Some of my favorite people to learn from include Gareth Evans, Paul Davids, and Marty Music. They're all linked.
Ooh,
If there isn't a tutorial video on YouTube, you're gonna have to look up tabs. Now, if you don't know what tabs
are we gonna get into transcriptions here? I hope so.
It's essentially like sheet music for guitar, and they're super, super valuable to self-taught guitarists, so put that on your things to learn.
Yeah, be sure to learn how to read tabs. It's gonna be hard, I know. As if we're not all born with an innate knowledge of how tabs work. Because we are.
It's generally a good idea to start out with tutorials, and preferably tutorials with tabs on the screen, like this one. I prefer to use a website called Songster for using tabs, just because they're pretty accurate. They have pretty much any song out there, and they also have this very useful playback feature where you can listen to what this song should sound like and then try to emulate that.
So yeah, he's put a lot of emphasis on like learning it by ear and like also internalizing the rhythms, which is a fine way to go about things. Of course, when I started playing guitar, like that's pretty much how I approached everything, like within the first 10 years of me playing, which it sounds like he's also in as well. Also, when I'm saying that, I'm not saying that I'm like better than him or better than anyone else. I'm speaking to you as somebody who's been doing it for 14 or 15 years, so like double the time. And yeah, like in the first 7 years, I also internalized rhythms like that. But I'll tell you, learning how to count rhythm properly has given me such a deep understanding for rhythm, and it's allowed me to internalize them way more vividly. Maybe look up some tutorials on how to like count properly as well, instead of just like hearing it and just like sort of playing what it sounds like. Because the difference in your playing from that, like even if it doesn't sound that different, but your actual understanding of it will be so clear.
This takes us to a very important point on tabs, though, that you should always, always, always cross-reference what you're learning on the tabs to what the actual performance video of someone playing it, even when using a playback feature like Songster's.
And that's another thing too, when you don't understand how rhythm works, and if you don't understand notation, you're sort of prisoner of whatever the performance you found online is. And I just don't find that a very helpful or effective way to learn stuff. I mean, imagine if you were just bound to like any Chacon performance and you had to learn it just based on like how whoever played it. And these are the conclusions that you come to after 7 years of experience. Like, I've been there. I mean, this guy is like selling a course too, but it's just like, what are you gonna learn in the course when like the answer is just listen to other people play? Like, I get this approach for like learning like early on especially, but this is not the end goal. Like, the end goal for something like this would be, if you only have a performance of something to go off of, you would transcribe it like in notation, and then from there you would learn it and then create your own performance off of it, which is a much different experience from what he's talking about. Because what he's talking about is like being in the dark with everything and then just trying to mimic, versus transcribing and then making it your own thing. But of course, like, being able to do that takes way more education and way more experience.
Not only does it help your note recognition like we were talking about before, but also tabs are often wrong. Even if they are correct, they don't give you any information about the rhythm. So it's a
Dude, facts. All right, good. Glad he acknowledged it.
Cross-reference what you're learning on the tabs with the actual video. Personally, I'll often use a combination of tutorials, tabs, and just learning by ear, especially as you develop that note recognition. So just use anything you can get your hands on. Tip number 2, no gear, no problem. As a beginner guitarist, it's always tempting to just go buy a bunch of cool gear, right? I mean, you're gonna need an acoustic, an electric, you also need a guitar cable, guitar amp, picks, you're gonna need capos, tuners.
Dude, don't waste your money on picks, bro. You're gonna go bankrupt. Also, grow your own, man.
This is literally all you need. No tuners, you can just use one of the 100
Yeah, dude, don't tune. No tuning. It doesn't matter.
free guitar tuning apps out there. Personally, I use Guitar Tuna.
Ooh, dude, pay no tuners where it's at, bro. You gotta get yourself a chromatic tuner. Guitar Tuna is great for beginners, though, because it gives you a lot of response, and it'll, like, ding at you when it's, like, about where it needs to be. At your level, I definitely recommend a chromatic tuner that doesn't ding at you, but it tells you the note accurately, and it'll just tell you what note it's hearing. Because surely you know the names of the strings, so that shouldn't be an issue.
You can play pretty much all the same stuff on acoustic, at least until you've assured yourself that you're not going to quit. And then you can go out and buy an electric guitar, because the last thing in the world that you want to do is go buy an expensive guitar and then 2 weeks later decide that you don't want to play guitar anymore. And
then you're homeless. Yeah, this is where I'm going to be filming practice logs pretty soon, if I don't start making some money.
no picks. I personally believe that every guitar should start off fingerstyle, where
Wow. I would have totally disagreed with that, like, when I was 7 years in, because I only played with the pick. I definitely think fingerstyle is the way to go, though, because that's what I do, so that's what I make my students do. Deal with it.
you pluck the strings with your fingers instead of with a pick, just because it develops your dexterity and strength in your right hand, your picking hand.
Well, yeah, you need a really strong right hand to play guitar. You guys ever see those guitar, like, grip trainers, those, like, finger trainers? Yeah, those are unnecessary, too. Strength is not a part of playing guitar. You shouldn't be stronger from playing.
Even a capo is unnecessary, not only because you can play the same songs.
Yep, he doesn't tune his guitar. Good.
Just
God, dude. I can tell you only use Guitar Tuna. It's like, it's so apparent to me. He used Guitar Tuna 3 days ago.
down, on the neck. But also because you can actually make using nothing but a couple rubber bands and a pencil. I will
Dude, okay, we're not all freaking Rasta dreadlocks Dreamcatcher, dude. I'm not gonna use a pencil and rubber bands as my makeshift capo, dude. Some of us have standards, where don't do that.
But there is a case where, as you advance, some guitar gear can actually help your progress, but we'll get into that in tip number 5. Tip number 3, just play something. I want to start this off by saying that a lot of self-taught guitarists make the mistake of teaching themselves bad habits.
Because how would you even know as a self-taught guitarist?
So whenever you're watching an advanced guitarist perform or do a tutorial video, I want you to pay special attention to how they're holding their guitar, the shape their wrist is in, how they're holding the pick, if they're using one. It may seem kind of silly right now, but trust me, doing this simple step right now and getting good habits nailed down rather than bad ones is going to save you years of frustration and wasted time down the road.
Injury too, but the problem is if you're listening to people, especially people playing like folk and like fingerstyle like pop song arrangements, you know, their technique's probably not going to be like super great.
Like when I'm a beginner, I find myself trying to make sure that I follow all the right steps and do everything in the right order so that everything's going to fall into place later down the road and I'm not doing anything the wrong way. But I'm going to tell you right now, there's no right thing to learn first, or right way to start learning the guitar. The most valuable thing that you can be doing with your time right now is just having a guitar in your hands. For instance, this was the first riff that
I sort of agree with that. I think there is a right thing to learn first, like especially with my students. Like I always start with the exact same stuff with my students. Like it's just the fundamentals of playing. Your technique doesn't have to be perfect when you're a beginner. Like I promise you, if you play for 2 years and you just sort of just play a lot and don't worry about technique and your technique kind of sucks, you'll be so much better off than somebody who like didn't play because they're waiting for a teacher. They don't want to like learn bad habits early on. The person who just played anyways, they're going to be better like every time. That's my personal opinion.
As important what you learn, it's just that you're learning something and that you have the guitar in your hands.
I do agree with that.
If your guitar journey is anything like mine, it'll probably end up looking a little like this. You start here at skill level 0 and 0 years.
Oh, all right, dude. Oh my god. What? See, oh man, this guy does look like a math major, doesn't he? But if you're anything like me, your guitar progress will look a little something like this. Oh, dude, it's like deja vu looking at this. It's like, is this me right now? This is literally me, guys.
As you start investing the first hours into practicing, you'll see visible progress. You'll start learning chords and new songs, even if they're very basic, and it's fun to practice and create sound. Here comes the beginner's worst nightmare, the hump.
And ironically, the hump is actually a line. It's not a hump at all in the graph. It's not really a rut either, though, to be fair. Could you call it a slump?
You'll struggle to up your caliber of songs, your fingers will blister in pain.
You'll be a guy on the street just freaking out.
It'll feel like guitar just isn't meant for you. This is probably where most of that 90% quit.
Probably. He just makes stuff up too. I do the same thing.
It's because they're not sticking to a schedule and setting smart goals. Now, when I say schedule, this can mean anything from 3 hours a day to a half hour a week. It's all up to you and what your goals are as a guitar player. But the important thing is that you set a date and you don't miss it. If you slip, then it becomes easier and easier to do that again. So if you're going to set a schedule for 1 week,
consistency is key. I absolutely agree with that too. Even if you're just playing for like 1 minute or 30 seconds, just holding the guitar and sitting there with it, that will do something. I know it doesn't seem like it'll do something, but I promise you, if you're struggling to practice, just hold the guitar 30 seconds, and then that's all you have to do today. Just be sure to do at least that every day. It goes a long way.
Make sure it's something that you can stick to. Now, on top of creating a schedule, you'll need SMART goals. This means goals that are specific. For instance, learning a certain song or scale. Measurable. Don't set a goal like, I want to play better. Be realistic in what you can accomplish, and don't push yourself too hard. I mean, excellence does take time. Set goals that are in line with a specific style you want to master. Are you a hybrid picker or a fingerstyle guitarist, a rock star or a jazz guy? And they're time bound. Once again, don't go too intense because that'll lead to burnout, especially during the hump phase. And stick with it.
Yeah, you don't want to end up that guy. That guy's life is a nightmare.
With scheduling and goal setting, you'll be able to get past any hump, and once you're back into that upward sloping portion of the graph, which you'll know because practicing will start to feel fun again.
Okay, I'll go ahead and say that second exponential rise there, that does not happen in your playing. Maybe early on it'll happen. This graph is hilarious that he threw this thing up and made it in an online calculator thing.
And now you can kind of adjust how you set goals and schedules thereon based on becoming more lax when it feels burdensome and adding it back on when you have the drive to do so, because of tip number 5, which is make it fun.
Make it fun. That's important too. You gotta make it fun any means necessary. If that is making a practice log like I'm doing and that makes it fun, then that's good. Or do whatever you need to do. That's why I think drinking and playing guitar is a good idea, because it makes it more fun, it makes you do it more, you're good. I maybe wouldn't look too far into that, but it's definitely something.
By far the most important tip of the video, so if you only remember one thing from the 5 tips that I gave you, this is the thing to remember. Because if you make guitar playing fun, then you're going to want to play. And if you want to play, you're going to play more and you're going to get better faster.
I wouldn't say that. Lots of people enjoy guitar and have fun, but they seem to practice for years and years and never actually get any better. But it's definitely the most important tip for having fun, which is really the whole point of life. I mean, I would rather have fun and suck at guitar versus be really good at guitar and not have fun. If you're not having fun, then what are you doing? But no, that will not get you better faster. I promise you that.
And most importantly, you're not going to quit. Now, I know this sounds kind of obvious, but I think this is the biggest reason why that 90% of people quit. Well, how do you keep guitar playing fun, you ask? Well, first off, prioritize learning
How you ask?
songs and riffs that you like to learn rather than just grinding scales all day or, learning.
Hey, why does everybody gotta hate on scales? Grinding scales is the most fun thing you can do. I grinded scales for years and I loved it. If you find scales boring, perhaps you should look in a mirror and wonder why that is, and maybe you just find yourself boring or something. Maybe the way you're playing the scales is boring. You should play them in a way that makes it more fun for you. Which I'm half joking about that. A huge thing that makes scales way more fun, which is something that I did a lot, and it's something that's not talked about in the classical world at all, I feel, or at least I've never heard much about it, at least in classical guitar. I feel I've heard it in other classical instruments. Improvise with your scales. And improvisation can be many things. It doesn't need to be bebop improvisation or anything like that. It can just be playing notes to a scale to a continuous pulse and just moving around, getting comfortable that way. Leaping, moving stepwise, whatever you want to do. But playing it in a way that's not just scales up and down. Because admittedly that can be kind of boring. For me, playing scales up and down isn't boring because there's so much stuff to think about with left hand technique, with my pinky right now, keeping it more curled, and building up right hand IM precision, that it's really not boring at all. But I could see if you're a beginner and you don't even know what to think about, just playing it up and down could be boring. But the first thing I would listen for is how does the scale actually sound? I feel it's so easy to just play a scale and not actually hear yourself play it, miss half the notes or half the notes buzz. That's a good place to start right there. See if you can play a scale and make it actually sound nice. If you find yourself bored practicing anything, make sure you're actually listening to yourself, because that'll make it a lot less boring, I think.
Keep your guitar visible around the house. This might mean
Actually, solid advice right there. Never put your guitar in its case, unless you have a super nice guitar and it's weather regulated. But keep cheap guitars out then. Always keep them around. I keep guitars everywhere, and I always will. I keep a guitar on top of my fridge. I keep my classical guitar out all the time. I have 5 guitars on a rack of all varieties ready to go. And in the opposite way, if you have something that you don't want to do, for example, you're trying to quit drinking or something, don't have your bottle of liquor out and ready. Maybe put it behind the cabinet up on the tall one. You need a little stepping stool to get to. Just make it harder for yourself to do the thing that you don't want to do. Make it easier to do the thing that you do want to do. There was definitely some good advice in there. I'm sure in another 7 years he can make this video again and it'll be a little more informed. But it's also relevant to the style of music that he plays. I'm coming at it as a classical elitist guy. Well, that's kind of the thing that we do here. Obviously, if you just want to learn how to play guitar and just play some fingerstyle and you're not preparing for an audition or something, you can do whatever you want, and how good you are doesn't even really matter. I'm just saying, if you're gonna get good at guitar and if you're gonna practice, you might as well put yourself in the best position possible to perhaps make it a career going forward. And I mean that especially for younger people too, kids. That's why I teach classical to kids, and I all my students, they have to learn classical guitar. And I mean, first off, the modern student doesn't even really know what they want to learn these days, because they're not listening to rock music anymore or anything, which I don't think is even necessarily a bad thing, because it means that they're all much more receptive to just learning classical, because it's why not? I had opinions about what I wanted to learn when I was a kid, and I wish I started classical earlier, because I would just simply be better at classical, which is kind of what my road has led me to. At least when you're learning classical guitar and learning it properly, especially as a kid, you have a chance of getting a scholarship to go to school, which you'll always be better off if you can just go to school, especially for free, and get a degree in anything. Your life is just going to be a little bit easier. Of course, unless you go into crippling debt. Don't do that if you can avoid it. But a degree will make your life easier, I promise you. Also, I'll address it now. I'm pretentious and I'm a douchebag. I don't know if that was clear. Sorry. I know, I hate myself too. I'm just stating my opinions, and I'm not trying to talk down on anyone. I'm just sort of saying stuff that makes sense to me in this moment. And you can poke holes in it if you want. I'm sure you can. I'm sure it'll be easy, and I'll probably agree with with anything that you say. You know, because I'm just kind of reacting over here. Alright, I think that's enough talking about that now. Well, we went through that video where we looked at that kid, and I criticized him, I guess, or something like that. I agreed with a lot of stuff he said too, though. You know, if you want guitar lessons, if you need some help with your guitar journey, if you're not satisfied with just YouTube videos and Songster, hit me up, emails in the description. I only teach classical, though. I'm not going to teach you anything other than that, and I don't do tappy-tappy. I don't even play flamenco. I'm strictly classical. So, you know, just know what you're getting into. You can always email me and ask me this. Buy some merch. We got merch, of course. Get the shirts. And comment questions. Feel free to leave them, and I'll answer them in the practice log at some point. And, yeah. I'll see you in the next one.